Oh, yes, turn it up. Can we get another opener? I hate looking at that head when I'm skateboarding. Rude head. Turn it up. Welcome. Gus, the story, 95 at Brookie. Roosters v Manly, and you're getting strife.
I got in strife.
You got in strife.
I was always in strife. It's a bit of a lead up to it because Bob Fulton was the coach of Manly, and they were having a record-breaking season. They'd actually won 15 in a row. They're going for a record 16 in a row.
Under the cap.
And
18 internationals.
Yeah, they were running the game. Anyway, Roosters, I just joined the Roosters in 95. They'd run sort of second last the year before, and we needed to win to stay in touch with the 8, and we just played against Parramatta, Canberra and North the previous weeks. We were 3 of the top sides, and we'd been beaten in the last 2 or 3 minutes in every one of those games. We were sort of knocking on the door. And I said, we'll go to Brookvale and we'll knock Manly off, you know. So we went into camp the night before. We had a big build-up for it, and we had a plan, and the plan worked. And we led, I think we led 21-4 at half-time. Like, we absolutely ran roughshod over them. And I had a young referee, and when I got down to the tunnel at half-time, here's Bob Fulton absolutely giving it to him and berating him. And I'm saying, don't listen to that, don't listen to that, don't listen to that. Well, when they got out there for the second half, penalty Manly, sin bin, try Manly, penalty Manly. And I'm sitting with the Roosters board in the stand, and they said, we're going to get beaten on the bell again. I said, be buggered we are. So I go down to the sideline.
You're pacing up and down the sideline.
I go down to the sideline to help my team, to give them a little bit of encouragement. And as I'm going down there, the referee penalty and sin bins Luke Ricketson. And my head just goes... So I said to my trainer, I said, get out to the captain, Shawnee Garlick. I said, and just tell him if there's any more penalties, I'm pulling the team off. And Ronnie said, what? I said, just go out and tell Shawnee Garlick. So they go out to the scrum, and Sean Garlick's there ready to pack the scrum. He said, Sean, he said, yeah. He said, Gus said if there's any more penalties, he's pulling you off. He said, who, me? He said, no, everyone. He said, the whole team. And Sean said, you sure? We're still in front. He said, go back and check. So he comes back to me and said, I said, did the referee hear you? He said, yeah, he heard me. I said, sit down, we'll be right. We finished up winning.
Oh, yes. What about your experience with coaches? Well, Fitzy, your relationship with Fitzy. We spoke about Mad Monday.
Yes.
You had a heart-to-heart.
Yes, we did. We usually do, actually. Every Mad Monday, honestly, it's just sort of... he pulls me aside and just tends to just chew my ear off for the better part of the entire session, which is unfortunate because I want to spend time with my team. But anyway, it is what it is. But, mate, Fitzy's... He's the best coach I've worked with in rugby league. He's probably the best coach I've worked with in my entire career, juniors and everything else. So, level-headed guy and, you know, doesn't mind a good time either.
How does he do the balance? Because he would have played with some of these players. And how do you find, how does he handle all that, you know, knowing the players so personally?
Mate, he does it so well. I mean, I've spoken to other players in the past at other clubs, and they sort of say that their coach can't relate to them in certain areas, and that's... No one in the club would say that about Fitzy. He sort of... No matter what walk of life you come from, no matter sort of what ethnicity, what background, he can just sort of sit down and chew the fat. He can break down barriers quite easily. He's a good conversationalist and just such a good man, good human being. So someone you really like working with, to be honest.
Who are his assistant coaches there, and how does he use them in the team mechanics?
So there's 3 assistant coaches. There's Josh Hannay, there's Steve Price and Daniel Holdsworth. We got... Daniel Holdsworth is sort of the skills and spine coach. Hannay is the edge defence, and Price is edge defence, and Hannay is the attack coach. So he says we actually have 4 defence coaches because we want to sort of emulate teams evolve. We know that the top 4 defensive teams win comps, and you can't win comps if you don't sort of sit in that top 4 defensive team. So it's sort of changed in this year, just in particular, sort of having 4 defensive coaches now instead of having an attack coach as such. But, yeah, that's sort of how he utilises the team, and he does it very well.
What about Craig Bellamy? Where does he sit? I think Craig Bellamy's gone past Wayne Bennett and maybe Tim Sheens. For me, Warren Ryan opened my eyes, but to what footy is when he was coached by Warren, very similar to Gus, same sort of philosophies. Where would you put Bellamy?
Well, he's got to be up there for longevity and success. Win percentage, it's incredible. And the number of coaches that have come out of his system as well.
The coaching tree.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable what he's been able to do down there. But just the appearance of the club, I mean, the professionalism, the perception when you think of the Melbourne Storm, when you watch them play, you can tell what a Melbourne Storm player looks like.
Honest.
Yeah, you can tell what their team looks like, and they're professional in what they do.
You can't fudge that, can you?
You can't fudge that.
Yeah,
And
you can't fudge it. You can't go, we need to be like this, and if you're not like that, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's a personality and character that comes from the coach. He sets that sort of standard. And he's been very, very good over the years at delegating to assistant coaches and giving them different roles and different responsibilities. But at the core of it all is the head coach who sets the personality and character of the team and the personality and the character of those who play for the team. He doesn't suffer fools and he doesn't suffer people that won't work hard. And that becomes through in the culture of the side.
I think a couple of things that work for him and against him, I think one thing is travel. They obviously travel as much as anyone. They're from Melbourne, so every second week they're travelling, which can be hard and can wear you down, or you can use it as an advantage. But I think they've utilised the bonus of actually being in Melbourne. That have less scrutiny on them, so the players get a little bit more flexibility, more freedom. So somehow he's managed to work that into a positive. So I think those couple of things he's done very well.
Talking about Warren Ryan, how do you think Warren would go in the modern game? Warren, without doubt's the smartest guy, along with Gus, being coached by. And we'd go for a beer, and we'd bring out coins, and we'd be talking about this. But Warren was so blunt. So he coached Newcastle 25 years ago, and the blokes couldn't handle how blunt he was.
Yeah, he didn't have a great bedside manner, but he had a great knowledge of the game. Warren Ryan, I say this unashamedly, has had the most effect on rugby league of any coach in history in the way the game is played, even the way the game is played today. You can see the embryo back in his teachings at a time where he was just lengths above everybody else. Jack Gibson was regarded as one of the greatest coaches of all time, but Jack wasn't as analytical or as football savvy as what Warren Ryan was. And a lot of people that came out of Warren Ryan's ear became coaches, players that he coached.
Well, you played under.
Wanted to be coaches.
He was a mentor of yours.
Yeah, you wanted to be a coach, having been coached by him. And the things that he did was help you think about the game. He not only taught you the game, but he helped you think about the game in a different light and how you could recreate or create your own circumstances around strengths and weaknesses or things that would happen and analyse why it happened, how can I make that happen again to my advantage? And it got you thinking about the game analytically, and that's what he does. And he would do that in any era because he was just, that's what he was. He had an analytical mind and he had a passion for it and a fervour for it. And without any shadow of a doubt, he's had more influence on the way the game is played, and even though he hasn't coached for a long time, what he did in his era had a greater effect on the game than any coach in history.
So one thing he says that the game should drop down to 12 players. He feels
11.
11 players. Like
he wanted to do that in the 80s. Yeah.
You think about, when Gus was playing, when I was playing even, people were slower, not as big, not as strong, not as fast, not as fit. It feels like the field's closing in.
Well, the field's not getting bigger.
How would you think about that? Like, from a point of view of a middle player, of course, there's a lot of pressure put on you blokes from a point of view of strength, fitness, agility. If it was down to 12 players, do you think that would make it a better game? 12 or 11 players?
I think it's something definitely to explore. It's sort of interesting. I don't know how that would sort of impact the middle of the park as much. I mean, there's times when on the weekend we were down to 12 men, and you defend with a 10-man line most of the time. So I'm trying to think. I think, if you look at the Nines game, it's obviously much more open. It's much more expansive.
Bigger spaces.
Bigger spaces, of course, and you'd see a lot more open rugby league for sure. Whether that would make a better product, you wouldn't be able to play 80 minutes. There's no way you could do it for that long.
I don't think you need to. I think what we've done through rule changes over the years, Warren was saying 11 aside back in the 80s, but remember we had a 5-metre rule, right? And we had slower play the balls.
Unlimited interchanges as well?
Eh?
Was it unlimited interchanges or
no,
you weren't allowed?
There was no,
that's right. Sorry, I was meant to say.
There was no interchange. There was no interchange. Most blokes played 80 minutes every week. There was no interchanges. And if you got injured, you went off. You didn't come back on. But we had a 5-metre rule. We had a different sort of defensive systems. Now they broke that down over time. I can go right back through history and trace it. So it started with going from 5 metres to 10-metre rule, which was a big transition, and then going to fast to play the balls and trying to speed up the game from there. And then we went to full-time professionalism, which improved catching, passing and kicking, tries from kicks, which weren't all that prevalent back in the day. So there have been a number of measures during the course of history that have broken down that need to reduce the number of players on the field. We're scoring enough points in our game today. We don't need less players on our field today. But back in the 80s, it was seen as a solution as to why teams couldn't score. I mean, the grounds weren't as good, the footballs weren't as good, the players weren't full-time professionals.
Yeah, they were low-scoring games.
Over time, we've got out of that. Yeah, but he wanted to do that back in the 80s. We'd go to 11 men.
Yeah. Toby, any other coach you'd love to be coached by in the NRL at the moment? Just say Fitzy falls over and...
I think there's a couple, honestly. Craig Bellamy definitely up there. Wayne Bennett, I know that people are sort of saying some things about him now, but from what I understand, from what his time was like at South, I'm good mates with Liam Knight and Cam Murray and a few of the guys there, and I've just heard nothing but good things about him. And to be coached by a guy like Wayne Bennett, he has that sort of aura about him, you know, and he's done so much in the game, and it'd be just a pleasure to sort of hear some stories about him. And so I think those two guys would definitely be up there.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights, action, 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast, get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour, grab a seat on the couch for that. And of course, my favourite, Freddie in the 8.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm, subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.